question, which is the question of consent, which now feels like it's writ large in the culture again.
Yes.
But it's part of your practice and your knowledge base. And I know for sex therapists, they really know their way around this issue. The general public might think of it as a little bit obnoxious. So we don't want that. We don't want to have to work on consent. That's gonna steal all the passion out of our sexual exchanges. You say, in fact, that consent, you called it in the article, the holy grail of sex. You think it helps improve people's sex lives. Let's talk a little bit about why that is.
Yes, it's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, that consent is boring, that having, to discuss things, and obtain consent when it comes to sex is going to break the mood. It's ridiculous, honestly. It's not. In fact, consent is incredibly sexy. Because if you think about this, what makes sex good for people? Knowing where you are, knowing who you're with, understanding what that person's yes and no are, understanding what the boundaries are. Consent is knowing the rules, right? And everything is better when you know the rules. You can win at the game if you know the rules. If you don't, it becomes a lot more difficult. And it creates space for both people. It creates space for, again, if we're talking about heterosexual dynamics, oftentimes for women to know that their no will be respected, knowing that there's respect for their bodies and their needs and desires. For men, there's a lot less guessing. Am I being the bad guy? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And weaving consent also promotes communication. And if there's one thing that we all need that's at the core of, forget everything else, if there's one thing you need to practice and learn when it comes to sex, it's communication. Because when you have consent, then you know how to talk about not just what you don't want, but what you want. Consent and pleasure go hand in hand. Saying no to something is just as important as being able to say yes to something. And again, talking from the male perspective, what I hear from men a lot is, I want to know that I'm doing a good job. I want to know that the woman I'm with is having a good time. I want to know that I'm satisfying her as a lover. Well, that's how you know. But you don't have to wonder, because when you have consent and you have communication, you have that flow of information. A woman will feed back to you what is working and what's not, and she will encourage you in a positive way to offer her things that will work. And it will feed back to you a sense of confidence, a sense of accomplishment even, why not? So it's very much this organic process. And it really, like I said, it really creates a feeling of safety, a feeling like, I can express the fullness of who I am. It is as important to men as it is for women. I mentioned earlier that so many men are restricted by shame. They have a hard time expressing what they really want because they've been taught it's bad or gross. And so consent is there for everybody. And when I talk about sex education, it's not just about preventing STIs and unwanted pregnancy. It's very much about body autonomy. It's very much about boundaries, consent, ongoing and enthusiastic consent, and always pleasure. Then they cannot be and should never be separated because they depend on each other, if that makes sense.
That does. It's an enlightening perspective to have on it. So